everyone. How are you doing today? I hope you guys are well. In today's video, we are going to talk about some of the anomalies that can occur during a tarot reading. And this was a question by one of my Patreon supporters, Faith, who has noticed that we had quite a few jumping cards in our recent readings. And a jumping card, for those who don't know, is basically a card that flies out of the deck while shuffling. And so it's a card that presents itself without you voluntarily choosing it. And it happens every now and then. And she was interested in knowing what that can mean if this becomes a frequent occurrence. And so I decided to make this video after thinking about it for a while, trying to figure out what it could mean. And I've also thought of a few other anomalies that I have seen happen during my tarot readings or the readings of others. And I decided to make a video about it. And if you are a practicing tarot reader or someone who's learning the tarot and have encountered an anomaly that perhaps I am not mentioning in this video but would like to know what it could mean, I encourage you to leave a comment and we are going to try to give you an answer. And please note that there's not always an exact answer. As you know, the tarot is more of an art or a game. It's not an exact science, obviously, so it's just a different genre. And things can mean so one thing or one occurrence can mean multiple things depending on the context and depending on your intuition as well. So more than anything, I would just like to take this opportunity to tell you that it's more important than any guidance that you can receive from anyone on YouTube or from any books or from any teachers, is to just follow your own instinct and your own intuition, and to try to make sense of these anomalies that way. But in this video, I'm going to share my theories. So the first problem, as I've mentioned, is the problem of the jumping cards. Now, the first thing that really jumps out at me, so to say, with this issue or this topic is that the jumping card is the result of an involuntary movement. So obviously, if you're doing a reading for yourself or for another person, you're shuffling the cards to kind of refresh the energies of the deck and to just to clear things a bit. And when there's a jumping card, it's obviously not a calculated move. So it's not like you have fanned the cards and you went ahead to pick the one card that you are drawn to. So it is an involuntary occurrence, and what that tells me is that it is a message. So if you look at the card, it conveys a message that is really trying hard to break to the surface, but there's some conscious resistance. So if you're reading for yourself, the jumping card represents something that you do not have the strength or the readiness or the willingness to face. So quite often, the jumping card represents some deep internal processes that we are not quite ready to deal with yet. And still, it does want to come to the surface. So it can, especially if the meaning of the card indicates, it can be interpreted as a warning. So there's a sense of urgency when it comes to jumping cards. It wants to jump out at you. It really wants to communicate something to you that you're maybe on a conscious level trying to keep hidden, or keep outside, or keep suppressed. So that's interesting. And when you're reading for someone else, I think it's the same deal. It's something that you'd maybe be hesitant to tell the querent. Something that they are maybe not quite prepared to face. And still, it wants to be a part of the reading. So it is there for a reason, and we need to honor that. So I almost always include jumping cards in the readings. Maybe the only exception is when I haven't even really started reading and I'm just being clumsy. But it depends on how you feel. I guess it depends on whether it feels significant or not. And so back to Fate's original question. What does it mean when you have a lot of jumping cards? When every time you make a reading for yourself, there's jumping cards all over the place. What could that indicate? Well, it could indicate just simply that you have a shaky hand, or it could point to some internal conflict, an ongoing conflict between what you consciously want to accept and can accept and the subconscious layer. So there, it would indicate a war to me. So something really has the intention of manifesting in your life, but you are pushing against it. And so the jumping cards are your guiding lights towards the resolution of this conflict, I think. So especially if you're feeling a higher level of inner tension during this time when these readings occur, I think it's a good idea to pay some extra special attention to these jumping cards. Now, the other thing that I could think of as an anomaly was the idea of reversals, and I have already made a video about it. So if you look at the playlist, which I think I have included in the description, hopefully already, or it might be even showing up on the video somewhere. So if you look at that video, I go into detail on how the reversed cards could be or should be interpreted. But this time I would like to speak about the problem of when we consider reversed cards. Sometimes, especially with decks that have a back illustration which can be interpreted upside down and upright as well. So if it's completely symmetrical, you can get a little bit confused. With this one, you can tell which side is up, but not all decks are like that. But anyway, if for any reason you have your deck with most cards, if not all, upside down, the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to read those cards as reversals, or are you just going to ignore it? And so what I do when I find this to be the case with all cards reversed or most cards reversed, I check if I accidentally held the deck upside down, and I will just consider the cards that appear to be reversed upright. You can obviously have a different feeling about it and a different approach to it, but this is just how I feel. I feel like we cannot consider them reversed cards when they are in reality not reversed cards. Obviously, the position of it being reversed is relative to the cards that are surrounding it. So I would say that if the reversed position only happens because you held the deck upside down, I would not consider it, and I would not read it as reversed cards. Alright, so the other thing I would like to mention in this video is recurring cards. So often you find that certain cards appear more frequently than others, and at times it can even get a little bit creepy, as in it becomes an experience of the card kind of stalking you in a way. So again, I think it's very similar to the message of the jumping card, because it seems like there's an eagerness, there's a sense of urgency with the recurring cards as well. They are very persistent to tell you something, and you can choose to ignore this occurrence, but I would advise that you pay close attention to it. And the other thing that often happens is that cards connect with your dreams as well. So they often appear in your dreams, and then they appear in an actual waking life tarot reading. And I think you need to take it into consideration when that happens, because the tarot in many ways is just a collection of patterns, and whenever the same pattern or very similar patterns are being repeated, this stubbornness, this sense of repetition, this relentlessness is something that I would say holds great significance. And another thing to look out for maybe is the symbolic connections. So sometimes, for example, I'm just gonna try to give an example off the top of my head with this card that I had many years ago. This is the Judgment card. And I had this card following me in my waking life and in my dreams. And it would also connect with, because this card is about rebirth, and it was also connected with the symbol of the egg. So I would see the symbol of the egg being present all around me in my dreams and in my waking life. And at the time I recognized that something deeply significant was going on, and it had to do with a revival and a replanning of my life. So I would try to keep my eyes peeled for more information and more messages coming in. And what you can also do is you can, if you find a card recurring in your readings, you can also do a reading on that topic in and of itself. Why is this card recurring? What is it trying to tell me? And you can try to get some clarification that way. So this is all the anomalies, tarot anomalies that I could think of right now. There's also, I'm not sure if I have mentioned this in any of my previous videos before, but everything accidental or unintended that happens during a tarot reading, I would consider it, especially if my intuition is triggered by it, I would consider it meaningful and involve it or include it in the reading. Just to give you an example, I was reading for a good friend not too long ago, and I meant to say I think 5 days ago, and instead I blurted out 5 years ago. And it really surprised me. I didn't know why it happened. So I decided to pull a card to see how the events in the present are relating to what happened 5 years ago or however many years ago. And it turned out to be significant to me and to him as well. So I would encourage you to treat the entire experience of the tarot reading as a net. It's like you're fishing when you're doing a tarot reading. You're fishing for these little units or drops of intuition. Or maybe we should say fish, because drops would not be caught in the net. So let's say we're looking for fish of intuition. And so what you need to do is you just throw out the net and you wait for anything to get caught in this net, and you need to observe every single thing carefully and see if it's meaningful to you. And chances are that there's a reason why it got caught in the net. So I think it's important to treat everything as if it has meaning, even the more mundane things, when you're doing a tarot reading. But my most important advice is to just follow your own intuition. So if you feel like it's meaningless, obviously we cannot acknowledge everything. We would go crazy, but if your intuition is activated by something, then there's a reason for it, and I invite you to include it in the reading according to how your intuition sees fit. So I hope that you enjoy this. As always, thank you very much for watching, and to those who are supporting my channel in any way. If you'd like to receive a private reading, please look at the description. I have Patreon and PayPal. And if you have any questions regarding this video or any other questions, I encourage you to leave a comment, and we'll see what we can do for you. Have a good day or a good night, and see you in my next video.